Senate Committee on Human Services, we are grateful that all of you would take the time to be here today. As Senator Nguyen just mentioned, we have chocolate on the way. That is our tradition here at the Human Services Committee. It will be here. Oh, they just arrived. So Bucket's going to be passing it out, so eat up. And we also are going to be doing margaritas. So here, I'm kidding. My goodness, watch out. But before we get into the hearing, let's turn it over to Mr. Teamer for a roll call.
McGuire?
Here.
McGuire here. Berryhill? Hancock?
Here.
Hancock here. Lou?
Here.
Lou here. Wen?
Here.
Wen here.
Thank you so much. So we have one item on the agenda here today, and that is Senate Bill 659, and Senator Bates. Would welcome Senator Bates and her witnesses to be able to come forward. Before we get into the bill today, wanted to be able to offer some opening comments. And again, just want to say thank you to all of you who took the time to be here today. Just wanted to give some background on how we got to today's hearing, because for the most part, I got to say, I believe it's how the legislative process should work here in the Capitol. Republicans and Democrats working together to offer up common sense solutions for a stronger California. I want to start out by saying thank you to Senator Bates for bringing this bill forward. She is an incredible former social worker. And Senator Bates, and these are my words, is wanting to be able to provide those who have been homeless or struggling with substance abuse the maximum amount of options to get clean and sober and become productive members of their communities. And to put this in context, as a bipartisan proposal makes its way through the state Senate, led by Pro Tem De Leon, that would invest $2 billion in combating homelessness in the Golden State, this bill could open up additional options to those in our communities seeking a new start in life. And that is why I've been grateful for the opportunity to sit down with Senator Bates, I'd say 4 or 5 times over the last 6 months, which has been fantastic, and twice in just the last 3 weeks to work through the issues of the bill. And we've been working through stakeholder issues, how the bill would be implemented, how it would impact counties, along with some technical changes, and most significantly, whether to mandate drug testing or not. And the issue of mandatory drug testing is a passionate one for many. But it's clear in California, mandatory drug testing is not a condition that needs to be met in order to access services, at least for most governmental funding sources. As originally presented, and this is where we have been having these discussions, which I greatly appreciated, this bill would have required mandatory drug testing for any Californian wanting to access the services that would be funded in the pilot project program. My own editorial, success of drug testing programs across the nation has been a mixed bag at best. And again, there are 2 sides to this story and passions on each. Federal courts have ruled in several cases that conditioning benefits and services for the poor on drug testing is unconstitutional and violates protections against unreasonable search guaranteed under the 4th Amendment. These court cases are referring to specific TANF funds, or some will call government assistance or welfare funds that have been used, but they highlight the greater concern of linking drug testing to those who need services the most. Moreover, records show in states that have mandated drug testing, such as Missouri and Mississippi, Kansas, Florida, and Arizona, as an example, is that testing requirements cost more money to carry out than is actually saved. Even in states with suspicion-based drug testing, we've seen less than 1% of TANF applicants referred for testing tested positive for drugs. Senator Bates and I have had what I would describe as collaborative conversations about the issue of mandatory drug testing over the past couple of weeks. And we came, what I believed, to a tentative agreement on compromise language that would have allowed clean and sober living communities to access funds that they have traditionally not been eligible for in the past, $50 million, and these same communities could continue to be true to their mission of having clean and sober living environments. And the language that is in the bill now and is in each of the packets in front of you states this, and defines a clean and sober environment. Each pilot program must establish a sober living policy, which we know the vast majority of programs that would access these potential funds already have those policies in place. Determination that a program participant is not in compliance with the sober living policy is at the discretion of the program's on-site manager. Violation of the sober living policy is grounds to terminate a participant from the pilot program. Now, so that allows those individuals who are living in the clean and sober facility to be able to stay true to their mission. And the last sentence states that mandatory testing for drug or alcohol use for pilot project participants only is prohibited. And unfortunately, after postponing this hearing to continue with the conversation, and what I had thought we had was two compromises, in having tentative agreement on language, my own opinion, the pure has gotten in the way of the good. The bill represents the most significant movement in drug testing language California has seen in decades. But because it doesn't give exactly what some may want, we are here today. Nonprofits who would benefit from this funding do amazing work in the neighborhoods in which they serve. And I want to acknowledge the incredible efforts that they do on a daily basis. And this hearing is not about their mission. And I think that we can all agree they do great work, whether it's here in Northern California, Southern California, or throughout the Golden State. This hearing is about one bill today, and that's SB 659. And I'm a big believer that compromise has to work both ways. The compromise language we're offering supports clean and sober environments, and we've seen examples from across the U.S. of organizations that are able to live up to the clean and sober commitment without drug testing. For example, in Missouri, applicants who do not wish to be tested for drugs may opt for substance abuse treatment instead of being kicked out of assistance programs. It's unfortunate that we're here today. The compromise language, while it does not please everyone, and there is no perfect compromise, this compromise language will provide hardworking nonprofits with the protection needed for those who currently live in their homes, and they would be able to expand their footprint to do greater good through the additional resources provided in the pilot program. From what I understand, the author will most likely not be accepting the language. We're going to turn it over to the senator, though, for a definitive answer on that. And as I have said, I will not be accepting any additional amendments from the dais here today. And the only amendment that is in play today is the one that is in print in everyone's packet. So I just wanted to be able to offer that as some context about where we have been, where we've gone, and how we got here today. So without further ado, I'd like to be able to turn it over to the great senator from Orange County. And we're really grateful that Senator Bates is here. And again, Madam Senator, I really appreciate all the conversations that we've had over the past many weeks. Senator Bates, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Senator McGuire. I certainly echo your comments regarding the collaborative approach that we've taken to try to find the path to ensure that we can expand programs that are successful. And I'm very, very appreciative of the opportunity to present the bill, Senate Bill 759, which we believe will help move families out of poverty using a holistic approach that addresses the root problems of family in crisis and supports the overall well-being of the children. The measure will appropriate $50 million for a 5-year pilot project that helps families receiving welfare benefits to achieve economic independence. It focuses on mental health, substance abuse services, employment and parenting skills, housing and childcare, as well as a myriad of other wraparound services. As many of you know, and I've shared with you often, I began my career as a social worker in Southeast LA during the era of President Lyndon Johnson's War on Poverty. I vividly remember young women in my caseload whose lives years before being in my caseload began as well as a welfare recipient. It saddens me to think that still today so many of our families are born into poverty and can't seem to escape the vicious cycle. The reality of families living in poverty is just as apparent in California today as it was then. In fact, in its supplemental poverty measure report for 2013, the United States Census Bureau reported California's rate of poverty to be 23.4%. We need to try something different. So to that end, I've introduced this legislation that I hope will end the cycle of poverty. I've enjoyed working with the committee and stakeholders, as mentioned by Senator McGuire. Over the past year, we've been working on it for the past year and crafting the legislation that's here today. And some of you have had the opportunity to visit a program here in Sacramento, St. John's Program for Real Change. It does employ many of the case management services required in this legislation. A few colleagues and I toured the program early last year, and I felt immediately inspired and motivated. I even said to the director that if they had this in my generation, I might not have pursued a political career. I might still be a social worker. But I thought it did motivate me to try something new in our efforts here in our government to lift people out of poverty. Hearing the many stories from women there made me realize that we needed to do more, so more women like those who are here with us this morning, Autumn, Brianna, and Nicole, can turn their lives around and be positive role models for their children. You have a mock-up of the amendments that Senator McGuire mentioned that the committee has drafted. Over the interim, I've worked very closely with the Western Center on Law and Poverty, the County Welfare Directors Association, along with many organizations throughout the state who are interested in this pilot project. And I did agree to accept many amendments to address concerns of the stakeholders to ensure workability and certainly accountability of the pilot. Receiving these committee's suggested amendments, I am very supportive of the county welfare director's request to allow more input from the county. Having been a member of the Orange County Board of Supervisors, certainly they run the program, they implement the program that's developed at the state. They need to have a very strong role in the initial stages of the application for the pilot, as well as after the pilot has been awarded. And I have worked with them to find the common ground that you find in that amendment. I support adding the volunteers in the child care centers to the list of those required to have background checks under this pilot. And I strongly support the amendment to ensure that housing is a key component of the programs for participants, and that has been certainly my intent all along. I concur with the suggestion by the committee to ensure an individual receives a full scope of physical, psychosocial, and mental health services. There are a series of other minor amendments in the mock-up that I am comfortable with. However, to amendment number 8 that Senator McGuire addressed, it does present serious problems, and therefore I'm not able to accept it today. Back in April of last year, I did amend the bill and remove the controversial piece allowing the pilot programs to provide randomized drug testing. There was a concern from stakeholders, a legitimate one, that could be considered unconstitutional. So we agreed to simply require a clean and sober environment, leaving that to the discretion of the program director and the participants on how there would be accountability for that. To date, I received no formal opposition on SB 659 that had that language in print. The last sentence of item number 8 in the committee mock-up seeks to prohibit mandatory drug testing for CalWORK recipients which creates a double standard for those individuals who will be participating in the program. It would create allowing some to be drug tested and others exempted from that requirement. This double standard, for example, could put children in these programs at risk if drugs are brought onto the campus, since families and children are all together occupying rooms in close proximity to each other and certainly sharing in the activities that are put on in the common area to create the family environment and the support environment in which they're all working. It is important to note that nowhere in the language of the bill does it force people into a clean and sober program. Counties will continue to refer clients to respective programs where they believe the individual will be best served. Upon referring a CalWORKs participant to the program that may or may not test for drugs, some programs do not, the individual has the final decision of whether to enter that program or not. The decision remains completely voluntary. And it's important to note, currently there are CalWORKs recipients voluntarily participating in these programs, and therefore they have accepted if they are in a program that requires drug testing, those CalWORKs recipients are accepting that. Since children make up such a large percentage of the population served in the programs, a clean and sober environment is not just best for them. I believe it's significantly important for their safety. This bill has received support from the County Welfare Directors of California, the Western Center on Law and Poverty, Solutions for Change in San Diego County, Esplanade House in Chico, California, Community Action Agency of Butte County, and the Lutheran Office of Public Policy. I have with me today Michelle Stieb, To my left, she is the CEO at St. John's Program for Real Change in Sacramento County, along with 3 women who have participated in the program, Autumn, Brianna, and Nicole, who are current participants in St. John's Program who will testify in support. Additionally, I do have Paul Webster. He represents San Diego County, part of my district, Solutions for Change, and Gary Incado representing Esplanade House in Chico, who will speak in support along with other stakeholders I've been working with over the past few months. Begin, and do we have all 3 ladies?
They're going to.
Oh, they're coming out. Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, go ahead, Michelle.
Hi, thank you for having us here. I'm Michelle Stieb. I am the CEO of St. John's Program for Real Change in Sacramento. We are a program that helps mothers and children who become homeless to get their lives back on track, to create real change in their lives. We operate the largest program of its kind in this region and are turning away 300 women and children every day. I really want to leave you with that point. We have 180 that we serve every day. We're turning away 300 every single day. The women and children who enter St. John's, about 77% enter because of addiction issues, 70% because of mental health issues, 70% because of domestic violence experience, 70% have never held a steady job, 60% have criminal histories, and 50% don't hold a high school diploma or GED. They have high barriers to self-sustainability, and by the way, about 50% have also drug court cases or CPS cases. In order to close those cases, they need to be in a clean and sober environment. They need to be tested. They need to be able to take those tests to drug court, to CPS, and show them that they're sober. St. John's has created a structured and sober 18-month continuum in which these women and children can eventually become self-sustaining. We provide mental health therapy, all under our roof, AOD counseling, alcohol and other drug, parenting, healthy relationships, budget and finance, job training in one of 3 social enterprises that we've created, and we provide childcare while their mothers are working on themselves. We are an optional program. No one is forced to come into St. John's. The people who come in really, really want the structure and support and sobriety that we provide to the 180 women and children we serve every day. The children, in particular, need to be in a clean and sober environment. I don't know if you have seen the recent report by American Enterprise Institute and Brookings. They came together and they said, here are some bipartisan solutions to how you can lift families up and out of poverty. And the 2 things that they said were most important. One is to get the moms in a place where they can be responsible for their families. You can't be responsible for your family if you're not sober. Number 2, they have to be working. In order to get a job, you have to be sober. What employer doesn't drug test these days? It's really, really important that we give them the tools to get a job and to be responsible for their families. I would say I respectfully disagree with a couple points that were made. We're not Missouri, we're not Mississippi, we're not Florida, we're California. And this program is about creating a pilot and studying data over 5 years to see what works for families in California. We don't know what works for families in California. We might know what works in Missouri, we might know what works in Mississippi, but we don't know about families in California. The breadth of families who are homeless, who become homeless or become impoverished, is just as broad as the breadth of families who haven't. And we really need to look at what works for them over as an individual versus as a one-size-fits-all solution. I would also say this hearing is not about 659. It's about Nicole, it's about Brianna, it's about Autumn, all of whom came into our doors because they need the kind of help that we provide and that California right now is not providing. And we need to open our minds and open our hearts to these families and support them in their journey to become self-sustaining, to take responsibility for their children and responsibility for their families.
Thank you so much. Who would like to go next?
Hi, my name is Brianna. I'm 22, and I have a 3-year-old son named Josiah. The reason why I came to the St. John's Program for Real Change is because I got into an emotionally abusive relationship while I was clean and sober, but my partner wasn't. So I fell into addiction with him. One morning, FBI and SWAT raided my house, and my son was taken away from me. I lost everything. I caught a CPS case, and my CPS worker was the one who told me about the program. Before I came to St. John's, I had no real life skills, no communication skills, and I was extremely self-conscious. I now know my self-worth. I'm not afraid to stand in front of people and hold a conversation, tell them my story. I'm no longer looking down at the floor when I'm talking to them. And this program has really showed me how to live a better life, clean and sober. This program has helped me change my life for the better. I now have 9 months clean and sober, and I think the structure at St. John's program for real change. The structure at St. John's helped me realize that the life I lived before was not healthy nor safe for me and my son. I am now looking for jobs. I've completed my high school equivalency test, and I am now awaiting housing. And the part about the testing, I don't have a problem testing. Every test I take that comes back negative, it's a reminder that I never want to go back to doing what I was doing. And every negative test that I get, it's a reminder to keep pushing forward in my life for a better future for me and my son, clean and sober. And I would never, ever want to go back to the way I was living before I was clean and sober.
Thank you so much, and really appreciate you being here today. We're
you.
grateful for your testimony. Autumn.
Good morning.
Nicole.
Cool. I'm so sorry. I got you flipped. I apologize.
Good morning. I'm Nicole Smith, and I'm 38 years old. I have a 17-year-old daughter, and I also suffer from drug addiction. I've been clean now for 90 days. I've been in the St. John's program for going on 4 months. And just like Brianna was saying, it's hard being clean and sober and trying to have a job and do all those things because that's impossible. I was living a life that no one should want to live. You can't focus being high. You can't focus being drunk. I took away from my daughter. I took years that I can't get back. She's almost 18. And every chance that I get, I try to prove that I'm ready to get back working and sustain a healthy lifestyle. I've never been drug tested before until I entered St. John's program. And when I came back to a clean test, that made me feel so amazing that I can actually be clean and sober. I can actually have a regular life without being high. So when those tests come back, it's not just a test to say, oh, you're clean or you're not. It's a test to make you feel like, I can do this. You know, I don't need to be high. I can do this on my own. So I'm all for the drug testing. Kids, you know, they're not, how can I put this? No one can function with a high parent. No one can function with a drunk parent. It's going, in the long run, it's going to hurt them. And then they'll become high and they'll become drunk and the cycle will never end. So if you make mandatory drug testing, then people will have to stand up and be accountable for their actions. They'll have to be accountable for their children. They'll have to be accountable for their life instead of just getting money from the state and just be like, oh, I'm not worried about that. They're not going to test me, you know. No, I have consequences, and without consequences, there won't be any type of, you know, nothing good to happen without consequences sometimes. So I'm all for it, so yeah.
Hey, that was fantastic, and I really appreciate you taking the time to be here and for your courage to speak out today.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you so much. And congratulations, 90 days. That's fantastic. Thank you. Please. Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Good to see you.
thank you. My name is Autumn. I have 4 children. I've cleaned today 6 months, so that's good.
Congratulations.
My mother and my father were both alcoholics and drug addicts. She was using and drinking while she was pregnant with me, so I really never had a chance. Without being pulled away from it and required to drug test in certain situations, there would be no way for me to grasp that honesty that is needed, you know? only because I believe that you need a substantial amount of abstinence from drugs and alcohol to be able to wake up a little, to be able to want more. Some of us do, and most of us do, get clean and sober in a protected and safe environment. That's it. It says in the books that there's not much anyone can do. 1% of people get clean on their own. So CPS took one of my kids, my youngest daughter, and without St. John's doing what they're doing, I would have no accountability. I would have to fight on my own. I would have never reached this far. So that's it. Thank you.
Great job, and we're really grateful that you would take the time to be here today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, thank you. I do believe Paul, who is next? Yes. Thank you so much.
Can I ask a question to Michelle, or can I bring her back?
We'll bring her back. We'll let everyone in this way. Is that okay, Senator? Thank you so much. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Chairman and members of the committee. Thank you for letting me be here. Thank you, Senator Bates, for inviting me to testify. My name is Paul Webster. I'm the Director for Strategic Advancement for Solutions for Change of VISTA.
Welcome.
Thank you. Solutions for Change is a community-based program that fosters transformational change and self-sufficiency in homeless families in North San Diego County. For more than 15 years, Solutions has provided housing, life skills, workforce development, access to health care, counseling, mental health services, and the like for mostly single-parent, female head of household families with no permanent addresses and few resources. Solutions residents come from backgrounds of poverty, domestic violence, substance abuse, almost identical to the previous testimony. They've often participated in multiple rehabilitation programs. Solutions asks 3 simple questions. Are you willing to get sober and stay sober? Are you willing to work? Are you willing to get up every day to get your kids to school or daycare? If they say yes, they're qualified for our program. Our goal at Solutions is to reduce and even eliminate reliance on publicly funded aid by transforming their lives and providing them hope. We teach our residents that they are leaders of themselves, leaders of their families, and leaders of their community. Solutions for Change has solved homelessness for 750 families and 1,450 children, and is currently serving 161 adults and 323 children, with about 40 families on our waiting list. 93% of residents who have completed the 1,000-day Solutions University training have graduated with stable housing, employment, at least $2,000 in cash in savings, and the knowledge and skills needed for long-term resilience against returning to homelessness. By successfully leveraging our social enterprise public support and for construction and private funding for programming, the average cost of our participation per person is $24 a day. We believe that housing is only part of the solution. Instilling the tools to maintain self-sufficiency and reduce the need for public assistance is the only way of ending homelessness and poverty. Unfortunately, public policies are demanding programs jettison requirements that lead towards self-sufficiency, such as abstinence from substances and maintaining sobriety. Programs are now faced with an either-or choice of no longer requiring accountability or losing critical funding. And we believe that this is not only not an ethical choice or a humane choice, it's a choice that's going to impact our communities negatively. We do support SB 659 because, let's face it, Senator Bates recognizes that small community-based programs are very good at innovating and designing effective programs, and we want to see more of that. But I do want to talk a little bit about why we require mandatory drug testing and why we also do random drug testing. We do it for a number of reasons. First, in our experience, in order to instill the skills needed to become self-sufficient and resilient, sobriety is crucial. Second, ours is a program that focuses on families, and many of our residents have had children removed from their custody because of drug use and drug addiction. Sobriety is crucial to achieving family reunification. Third, our program is one that emphasizes leadership training and the adoption of leadership skills, such as leading by example and leading by serving others. Sobriety, again, is critical to the acquisition of leadership. And fourth, Solutions for Change utilizes a community environment to support the principles of our program and instill self-sufficiency. Our campuses are designed where kitchens are shared with another family and apartments face one another to create a courtyard setting. We require our residents to get up at 5:30 in the morning so that they can prepare their families and get them to school and get themselves to work. At about 5 in the afternoon, all of our residents come back to our campus and they assemble in the courtyard.
About 1 minute, sir.
Thank you very much. We have found that those who wanted to stay sober support a community of sobriety. We have created a community, and our residents desire accountability from not only themselves but from one another. And this requires a community. We have intentionally developed our campuses to be community, and supporting our families with zero tolerance policy on drugs and alcohol helps them help themselves and one another. I've heard that requiring mandatory drug testing could be considered a gun to the head approach. Well, our response is, in life, we often choose which guns are at our heads. You can choose a gun to your head with respect to entering a program that requires sobriety, or you can choose the gun that doesn't allow sobriety, and that you're left to your own devices. And we've seen how that results. Thank you very much for your allowing me to testify. We do support SB 659, and we do support Senator Bates's rejection of Amendment number 8. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. Yes, yeah, we have, if Gary's here. Gary, come on up. And then, I have a handout. Sure. After Gary speaks, then we're going to open it up for those who are in support of the bill, and then we ask that you simply come up and give a support position. Gary, the floor is yours.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm Dr. Gary Ancado. I'm a physician in Chico, and I am one of the founders of the Esplanade House in Chico in 1991. I've been with the program. I'm also a clinical professor of medicine at UC Davis and currently conducting a research study on our homeless population. We're trying to define family homelessness in a rural population, identifying their characteristics, identifying certain other components of the family that identify perhaps failure in our program. So we're very interested in cost effectiveness, and we're working very hard toward identifying those factors so we can modify our program accordingly. We started our program in 1991. We started with a 12-room apartment, well, actually it was a motel, and we opened it up as wasn't drug-free. It was just families can come in that were homeless, and we did not require any testing. We didn't require anything. Within 6 to 12 months, our facility was almost destroyed. And we decided that, well, maybe there's something else involved. And we realized, of course, and you've heard about that, that homelessness among families is really a complexity of issues that revolve around mental illness and drug and alcohol abuse, and et cetera, and childhood trauma. So in our 25 years of experience, we found that the primary caregiver of our homeless families come from poor and middle-class homes where substance abuse was present. And they started their alcohol use somewhere between 12 and 18 years of age, and they have their first child between 18 and 21. In these 25 years, we've grown to 60 apartment units with a child care center, administrative building, playground, donations area, and resource room. We have a 6 to 12-month wait list, of which 60 to 80 families are involved and over 150 children. 1/3 of our clients come from the court system. The court says, we will reunite you. You reunite the mother with the children if you come to our program and participate in our program and are successful in our program. So we are reuniters of families. And children need to be with their biological parents as much as they can, and they need to be in a sober and clean environment. Our program is 18 to 24 months. You've heard about all the programs. We do similar things. We're very intense in what we do. And we particularly put emphasis on the children's program. Where we have early Head Start, on-site preschool, on-site child care, on-site after-school program, and tutoring of the children to grade level, snacks, physical education, and we use that with lots of volunteers. We have Chico State's very much involved with what goes on at our facility. We have a 70% success rate with our 2-year abstinence-based program. Our model unites families in a safe and secure environment, and most of our families then graduate to economic independence. So we're very proud of that. But most of all, I want to emphasize that I want to add to what other people have said, because our program is really about the children. We have 100-plus children, kids like this, and I gave you this article. It's a little article that came out recently. And it's important because these children need an opportunity to regain their childhood, get back up in their education, and learn another way of life. That's really what this is about, because the kids are innocent victims of their parents' bad choices.
You have 1 minute, sir.
Yeah, they're struggling to recover from absent parents. You've heard about that, missing school, insecure home. As a physician, I can tell you that 80 to 90% of our children are damaged psycho-emotionally at some point, somewhat reversible, somewhat irreversible. It's important for us to intervene as early as possible so these children do not become the homeless of the future. That's what our research is going toward, and I'll end with one other thing. It's a little quote. The reporter who came and interviewed a couple of families noticed two boys riding their BMX bikes around the campus, and with permission, he interviewed them and asked one of the boys, the 10-year-old Xavier here, he said, "Xavier, why is it that you like to live in the Esplanade House?" And he said, quote, it's a drug-free place. It changed my family's life, and I think it's changed everybody here. There's just no harm here." And that's what this is all about. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate you making the trek over as well. All right, we've been able to conclude time for our witnesses. We're now going to ask for those individuals that would like to simply say if they are in support of the bill. We will then go to those who have concerns or oppose, and then we'll open it up for questions from the senators. So if we can see any organizations that would like to come up and state their support.
Thank you very much. Thomas Tenorio, CEO of the Community Action Agency, Butte County, Inc., and we're voicing support for the bill.
Thank you so much, sir. Grateful for you being here.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Kathy Sunderling McDonald with the County Welfare Directors Association. As Senator Bates noted, and as you know, she's worked very closely with our organization to resolve concerns, and we're pleased to support the bill.
Thank you so much.
Mike Harold, pinch hitting with Western Center on Law and Poverty, pinch hitting for Jessica Bartholow. And like the welfare directors, we have also worked very close. We appreciate the senator's work in helping to make many changes to the bill. And we also are in support of the bill and look forward to it going out today with the amendments as proposed.
Thank you.
I am the third Elizabethan and the House of Windsor Chair. I'm in support of the bill. I'm also Mother's Prayer Ministries in support.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
being here today. Would anyone else like to speak in support of the bill? Would like to be able to see if there are any individuals with concern or opposed. Please come forward, ma'am. Welcome. We're grateful you're here.
Hello, my name is Janetta. I'm in support of the bill. I am currently been on the waiting list to get into St. John's, and so I've been told about the program and that it'd be good, and so I'm in support of the program.
Thank you so much, and really appreciate you being here. Thank you. Thank you. And who's that with you? Ma'am? Who's daughter? Yeah, my daughter. What a cutie. My goodness. Hey. Thank you so much. Did we miss anyone? All right, why don't we bring it back to the senators. I know that Senator Nguyen has a question for Ms. Steeb, so Ms. Steeb, please come on forward, and then we'll turn it over to Ms. Hancock and Ms. Liu as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I actually have a couple questions, one for Ms. Steeb and also a few for Mr. Webster, and I can go whatever order you would like me to go. Ms. Steeb, the current proposal, the pilot, how would this new funding help your program?
Would help enormously. As you heard earlier, I neglected to mention in my initial remarks, but we've lost funding because we require sobriety, and many funding sources have aligned with HUD to ensure that people can get into programs without that sort of sobriety requirement. As I mentioned earlier, we're turning away about 300 women and children every day. They're on our wait list. We need to expand. We have plans to expand. We're actually looking, we made an offer on the building next door to us. We don't have full funding yet. We need funding to be able to do that. And our funding is, the options for funding are limited because of the sobriety component and the responsibility component that we require at St. John's.
So there are some government programs right now that you don't qualify because you require drug testing.
Absolutely. We just walked away from a HUD grant of about over $100,000. We've lost other funding because of that requirement, but that's the one most recently.
Thank you. Mr. Webster, can you describe what happens when, or if someone tests positive for drugs in your program, what do you do?